Welcome to Sharkie's Gaming Controllers. I'm Sharkie, and in today's video I'll be taking a look at the Family Champ Turbo Joystick for Famicom. This is made by Spital or Spital. I don't know how you pronounce it, the name's just down here. And this is the Type 1 joystick. There's a Type 2 as well, and I'll get into the differences in just a second. But first, on the top of the box here, it shows you a nice image there of the joystick. Of course, it says its name, Family Champ Turbo, that it's Type 1, and it gives you a few more features that are in Japanese. On the side of the box here, it shows you the difference between the Type 1 and Type 2. So this is Type 1 and this is Type 2. Essentially, Type 1 is if you want one player, and Type 2 is if you want two players. So if you're just playing yourself, you just get the Type 1, but if you had two people that want to play, you need to buy a Type 1 and a Type 2. Essentially, Type 2 plugs into Type 1 and allows two people to play the same game. Other differences include it is missing its start and select. See, this has a start and select button at the top there, and this one doesn't. So of course, if you were to buy these joysticks, make sure you get a Type 1, and this of course you want to get a Type 2 as well. Just don't get a Type 2 on its own because you won't be able to play it without a Type 1. It just won't be able to be plugged into the Famicom. Of course, this also has some more Japanese writing here, giving some more features. On the side, it gives you a little blurb, also in Japanese. Same with the other side, except this is just showing the Famicom system there. And on the back, it goes more into detail about the different functions and kind of points out each of them. Of course, this is also in Japanese. So now let's take a look at the Family Champ Turbo Joystick. Now this, of course, straight away you can tell is a vintage arcade stick. Just look at that retro look. Now, like I mentioned before, this is a Type 1 version. You know it's a Type 1 because of here. You've got a 1 there, and it's also got the start and select buttons. The Type 2 does not have these buttons. It's just blank here. And you also know by the connector. So on the connector here, you've got a Famicom connection that plugs into your Famicom console. But on the end here, you've got a 2 connector. And there's a little plug at the back here, and that's where you'd plug the Type 2 joystick. So if you wanted to play, you would get the Type 2 joystick, you would plug it into here, and then this would plug into your Famicom, and that way you can play 2 players. Now, this is why it's important to make sure you get a Type 1 if you only want one player, because if you get a Type 2, it has a different connector, so you won't be able to plug it into your console. So that's just one thing to be aware of. Now, looking closely at this joystick, first off, you can see the cool kind of Famicom color scheme there. It's got the white and the maroon. Looks really nice. It's the top of it there. The side, other side, the back, the other side, and the bottom. Now on the bottom it does say Made in Japan down the bottom here, and it also has felt feet that go all around it. Now, these felt feet are to stop it slipping on a desk, but they don't really work that great. When it's on a surface, you can see how easily it slides. So it's probably best when you're playing with this thing just to hold it in place so it doesn't get out of your grip. Now moving on to the joystick itself, this is an 8-directional joystick with self-centering. And listen to that vintage sound. Now, of course, it goes the same kind of directions as you're used to, so you can go your forward and back, left and right, and it's got diagonals as well. Now, on the top here, you've got a ball grip, and this ball grip has this like ridge going through the center of it there to add a bit more grip. Now, the joystick itself actually feels quite good. It's obviously a vintage joystick, so it does not compare to modern arcade sticks, but of course it feels way better than using the Famicom's D-pad on its gamepad. So this is a way more better experience. It gives you a lot more control and precisions, especially with diagonals, which you just couldn't get that with the Famicom D-pad. Now on both sides of the joystick, you've got the A and B buttons. Now, of course, these buttons, they press down really nice and easy, but they've also got a very vintage sound as well. Yeah, so it's very vintage sounding. They actually do feel quite nice though, and you can easily press them multiple times So for a vintage stick, the buttons actually feel quite nice to use. Now this is ambidextrous, so you can use it with either your left or right hand, so you can either use it like this, using the stick and the buttons, or use it with your other hand as well. And there's various ways you can actually hold this. I mean, you could do a wide grip like this, you could do a close grip. It really comes down to what your preference is. Now moving on to the top functions here. So first off, you've got an A and B toggle switch. Next to it, you've got the start and select buttons. And on the overside here, you've also got the rapid fire functionality. So this is normal fire and the top one is rapid fire. So you just simply switch it on when you want to use rapid fire. And this also has these unique little dials here that allow you to adjust how much of a rapid fire you want to use. So you turn these clockwise like this, and you can adjust it up to a maximum of 15 shots per second. So of course this means that if you have it on the maximum, then it'll be acting like you're pressing this button 15 times every second. So it definitely adds a little bit more of adjustment to it. So you can adjust both A and B to whatever speed you want. And of course this might help if you're playing a game and you want to press a button a lot. This just helps you without having to physically press it. It just does it for you. Now with this joystick, not all games support the turbo functionality. So you know, the ones that do, it works well. The ones that don't, you're just going to have to skip, unfortunately, and just not use that functionality. But of course you can just turn that turbo off if you don't need it, and if you just want to use it as an arcade stick. This joystick basically allows you to play Famicom games with more precision, and it just gives you a bit more of an arcade experience. It's quite nice and enjoyable to play with. Obviously this does not compare to modern day joysticks, but it definitely has a nice feel to it. And like I mentioned before, this is far better than using a D-pad. It just gives you that extra added control and precision you just can't get with using a little D-pad. And of course the joystick is far more comfortable to use. Overall, the Family Champ Turbo joystick is pretty cool. If you like playing Famicom games and you want more of an arcade experience, then this thing is definitely recommended. You'll feel like you're playing an arcade game with this ball grip stick, and it's definitely more accurate and easier to use than using the D-pad on the classic Famicom gamepad. So this is definitely a recommended way to play. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with all games, but most games it should work okay with, even if you can't use the rapid fire. But I would say if you're after a more arcade experience, then this thing is pretty cool. And of course, if you want to do two-player, you can get the Type 2 version of this and plug them both in, and then you can play two-player games with these arcade sticks. They're pretty cool, and it's a good example of a vintage arcade stick. So if you're into Famicom or like playing Famicom games, this is something that you might need to add to your collection. Anyway guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please hit that like button as it helps out a lot. Feel free to subscribe as I'll have heaps more gaming controls up very shortly. While you're at it, hit that notification button and share this video with your friends. And if you'd like to support my channel, then hit the join button down below and become a channel member. You'll get monthly perks, and the extra support really helps me out. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.